So today's episode is something a little bit different. I've got the perfect person to finish this series with. As I thought about all the fantastic women that I've interviewed over the last few years, I knew that I wanted to interview more people and obviously open up the conversation and make it a little bit more diverse. This person I came across several years ago when he emceed an event. Yes, he. And that event had a real impact on me. And actually, as I found out today, it had an impact on him too. So I'm super, super proud to present this week's episode of B-Bell with the fabulous Lennon Courtney.
This series of B-Bell podcast is brought to you by award-winning skincare brand, Irish-founded, female-founded Ella & Joe by the amazing Charlene Flanagan and Neve Ryan. I will tell you more about Ella & Joe during this episode.
Brendan, welcome.
Thank you so much. Good
I'm
to see
actually
you.
so excited because you are my first ever male interviewee.
I thought you were going to say my first ever man, and I was
yeah.
going to say you liar.
I know. all right. My husband listens to this.
Exactly.
And that's a whole different episode.
Exactly.
But
Thank you so much. I'm very privileged because I kind of jokingly always say I feel like an honorary woman because I grew up with two older sisters and a very dominant matriarch. And so, like, my job from the age of 8 was going to the shops to get sanitary towels and products for my sisters. So I was very much part of the whole process. And when my sister Deb, who's just a year older than me, sadly, she was a twin and her twin died when we were babies. So we'd heard about this, but I was 6, Deborah was 7. She made her Holy Communion. When she came down in her Holy Communion dress, I said to my mum, "Where's my dress?" And Mum went, "Oh, no, you're not twins."
Next year.
I was like, okay. So I feel very connected to the female species and my feminine side.
Well, do you know what? When I was thinking about how to do this, because I really wanted to change up B-Bell, and I've interviewed so many amazing women, and you have come across my path so many times over the last few years.
Like a black cat.
Yeah, kind of. But every time I've met you, and the first time I ever met you, actually, you were facilitating, you were emceeing an event at VMware down in Cork, and it's about 7 or 8 years ago, I think.
I remember that event very well. Did you work there?
No, they invited me to that event.
I remember that, and that really put me on the course to want to study equality, diversity and inclusion, that actual event.
It had a huge impact on me as well.
Well, somebody in the audience being kind of bitchy and smart, a woman put her hand up and said, "Can we invite the men next time?" And I, in my naivety from the stage where I was speaking, said, "Oh, were they not invited?" And then the facilitator, who's still a friend of mine, who ended up doing the course with me, would you believe, doing the masters with me, said they were invited, they didn't come.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is really interesting. Now, this is next stage thinking of how do you get allies, men, particularly specifically middle-aged white men, to come into this room because they're intimidated by a gay and a group of women. Because we know what we're talking about, they don't know what we're talking about. So I thought this is a really interesting spin on this.
Well, you
were in that room, wow.
I was in that room, and that day had a huge impact on me. That made me want to do this. That made me want to speak to more people. That made me want to understand people much better. Because it was just a really different event. And actually, I remember that conversation. And that's when I remember thinking, it's so weird because I work with primarily women, but all the people that support me are men. And it seems to be working well for me. Why isn't it working for everybody else?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't work unless we're all together.
Yeah, of course.
And that's why, I've loved speaking to all of the women that I've spoken to on this, but I really wanted to open it up. And I was like, it really is time. So there was only one person in my head that had to come on.
I straddle the worlds.
Do you know what? I was like, I don't care when we get him, how we get him.
My audience is female.
Yeah.
My customer is female. My viewer is largely female.
Yeah.
My friends are largely female. I mean, I have a lot of gay friends. And I have a couple of really solid straight male friends who I adore, who drag me to football matches and boxing matches and make me squeal. So I have a good set of inclusive mates, I'd say, broad enough. But I can definitely say, if you're to look at my insights on my Instagram, it's 90% female.
Yeah.
35 to 65. Hi, girls.
Hi.
So yeah, I can see why I would be crossing your path a lot. But funny enough, on that EDI event that we met 7 years ago, love that you remember that, it was a bit, because I've been doing sort of unqualified talks. It was only my life experience of being Ireland's first openly gay TV presenter and all the stuff I peddled out. I was booked a lot to do those talks, and I really felt, God, I'm not qualified to answer that question. I don't know how to tell her that the men should be in this room, and I don't know how to bring them into the room. So it put me on a path to studying it properly. Okay. And now, all these years later, when we thought the world was changing 7 years ago, I found myself on Friday hosting the National Diversity and Inclusion Awards for the third year running. They've grown from 350 people to over 1,000 people now in the Burlington Hotel on Friday, Clayton Hotel, sorry, now it's called. And it's a room with An Post, Ishka Éireann, Bus Éireann, Unit Lewis, ESB, AIB, Bank of Ireland, all the massive organisations represented in this room. My whole conversation was about what does D&I, diversity and inclusion, mean in a Trump era? And it's changing. It's rowing back. They're dismantling it.
Yeah.
The acronym is unsafe. So, your timing now to open up conversations on your podcast is probably perfectly timed, I think. So,
Well, yeah, it's a really scary time.
Yeah, and I think the more voices, the better.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Actually, I was watching Richard Gere's speech the other day.
Oh, I must see that.
Go and look it up on YouTube, and he calling him out. And it just needs lots of people like that.
Yeah.
To keep calling it out.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I'm scared. I don't know about anybody else. And at 53, you shouldn't really be. I didn't think I was. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Such a good age.
Yeah. 54 sounds fucking old, though. I'm 54 in June. I was like, I don't like the sound of that one. 53 I was hanging on in
you've
there.
You've got 6 months on me. My friend actually sent me a WhatsApp earlier and said, there's an over 50s show on at the RDS. I'm so gutted we can go. And I was like, we won't be booking those holidays
As
just
my friend
yet.
said, did you tick that box later to middle age? I'm like, how dare you? I'm early middle age.
I don't know if it's in my mind, but I think the age boxes have dropped because I'm sure it used to be 40 to 50 and I seem to be ticking the 45 to 55 now.
Maybe
I think they're being kinder, or maybe it's just my brain.
Or we're living longer, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But for you, I suppose, have you always, did it all begin for you in Dublin? Did you always live here? Where were you brought up?
So I was brought up, I was born in Coolock, which is a kind of a working class suburb of North Dublin, very nice place to grow up. But we moved from there when I was 7.
Yeah.
So I made my Holy Communion there, and then we moved to the other side of the city, to Tala, to Kingswood. My parents' journey into buying their house is fascinating. They were in arrears, and they went to the council, and the man behind the counter was in a prefab in Coolock somewhere, and he could see out the window, and he could see my mum with 3 young children in the car, and he said to my dad, we're in arrears, we want to do a payment plan. They were in their 20s.
Yeah. And
he said, I'm retiring today, go and get me £500 and you can have that house. And it was worth about $2,500. And he gave them the house £500 and changed the course of our lives, because they sold it then a couple of years later for $17,000 in the 80s, and then bought a house in a sort of a more upwardly mobile area with a school across the road for us. And my mother had notions. She was a snob. She wanted us, she sent us to elocution and wanted us to speak properly and wanted me to be a doctor. Or she wanted me to be a priest. My dad wanted me to be a doctor. And they both wanted me to get a good job in RTE.
Really?
Yeah, and he was a builder, she was a hairdresser. But so I was reared in Kingswood. Really, what I remember mostly is my formative years, where sort of 7, met all my best friends in Kingswood, went to that little primary school there.
Okay. And
it was mixed. So it was like Little House on the Prairie. It was just so glorious, and we were surrounded by fields, and we just ran around the fields all day. So I had a lovely growing up. That primary school still facing my mother's house. My nephews went there. My brother went there. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous little school. And now they've built a really modern secondary school right next door. So whoever lives there is very lucky, let me tell you. But so I grew up there, and then went to a Gael school called Gael Gilgum, and went to a Gael school called Closh de Wira, which was pure torture, hell on earth, because I was very femme, little gay. I'm actually writing a book at the moment called Is He a Boy or a Girl?, which is how Ireland has changed in my lifetime in 50 years. Because when I was a little boy, people thought I was a girl all the time. Because my mother was a hairdresser, and I had blonde hair, and I had a page boy. I looked like a little Lady Diana.
Purdy?
Pretty much purdy, like ridiculous. I have photographs of me, and I was like this really cute little, chubby little cheeked kid with a blonde page boy, and it was like really discerning. You couldn't tell what I was. Yeah. I could have been anything, right? But the point is, asking me was I a boy or a girl was horrific to me as a child. It's just like the blood would drain from my body. And my sister would come from behind me and punch them and say, he's a boy. And just, it starting with that, obviously slightly inflammatory title, because it gets the conversation going. But really it's just charting the change I've experienced in my life by living here. But when I was 16, I moved out of home and I went to live in London.
Whereabouts?
I lived in West Hampstead, of
Oh,
course.
lovely.
Yeah.
I used to run Jigsaw in Hampstead
There
Heath.
you go, yeah. And I was only 16 and I got a job for the summer in River Island on Oxford Circus.
Amazing.
Yeah, and then came back and went to college. Then went back I did my leaving cert when I was 16. And then that year I went to London, and then always wanted to go back to London. I was a real bright light, big city kind of kid.
Yeah.
And then went back when I was 21 when I graduated, and then came back and forth, and then properly moved lock, stock and barrel to London in 2002.
Okay.
After my career had started in television here.
Yes.
I was doing a dating show called Wanderlust, format that I'd written and that I'd sold to 19 countries. And so I had a great so people in broadcasting knew me in the UK. And so I got an agent there and then moved over. And so I bought a flat there and lived there and had a partner there. And my life was London, and I would come back this way for years, and then got off the rails, which was the big fashion show. And I'd been running my own production company, and that was by 2008, I think we got that gig. So I commuted from my flat in London to do that here for a year. And then I thought, this is silly. So I rented out the flat in London and moved back into my box room in Tala, in my mum's. Okay. And actually I was in my 30s. I was kind of grateful in my early 30s that I could do that. And then eventually in 2010 bought my apartment here.
I was going to say, because, that was, I moved over here 2000. We crossed paths.
Wow.
And so that was, I suppose, just, 210. So you're coming back, it's the recession.
I bought my apartment. See, television wasn't really affected by the recession. Television's fickle anyway. And I was doing the clothes show in the UK, and then I was doing a documentary series for living. So I was always working. I did the Oscars for 6 years, and I did all the red carpet stuff for Living or ITV or whoever book you. Yeah. Myself and Farron Con would do it, or whoever else. And it was a lot of fun. Not very well paid, but good profile stuff. But it was pre-social media. Remember, Facebook just happened in 2007 in the UK. And I remember someone in the office having Facebook, and everybody in Ireland had Bebo. Bebo didn't take off in the UK. And on Facebook, and I was like, all these people that I went to school with. I mean, I left school. I don't want to be. I'm no interest in being friends with these people. That's so funny. Yeah. But I had a particularly tough time at school. Funny enough, I'm still friends with my friends from primary school. Because Carla and Louise and Marguerite, all these people I'm still friends with. But the horrible time I had in the secondary school, I'm not friends with anybody from that period.
Was that weird though, then seeing them, because
No.
I suppose at that time,
I was on the telly, remember? They could see everything was going well for me. I always think that about the bullies.
It's a bit of that.
Yeah. Like hosting something on TV, and you I never really thought about it, because when I moved, I was lucky in that I knew what they were. And I knew I was on my own in that scenario, and I knew I just had to get out of that scenario. Yes. I didn't believe anything they said or anything. Do you
think it would have been different if you'd stayed here, though? I mean, it's obviously, very different. I mean, my group of friends growing up in London were completely diverse. Yeah. When I moved here in 2000, I remember ringing my mate going, "Oh my God, this is a mental place." Yeah. There's just white people everywhere.
There's no diversity, yeah.
There was nothing. Yeah.
But because it was not a nice place to live. Yeah. It's now a very nice place to live.
Yes.
It's one of the nicest places in the world to live now.
Yeah.
It wasn't in the 80s and 90s. We all ran off the island. And actually, there was an inner shame about being Irish. Our English cousins or our American cousins or our Australian cousins would come home, and they were just so glamorous and tan, and they had T-shirts that we'd never seen the like of. And they were just so glamorous, and their accents were so glamorous. We were intrinsically ashamed of being Irish. And I think I'm the last generation of that ilk. I think younger people are very proud to be Irish. You're seeing a real reconnection with the language, kneecap, etc., etc., etc. And also, it's a temperate climate. And now, this is a really mad thing to say, but with extreme climate, temperate's much easier. We don't have extreme hot, we don't have extreme cold, we just have extreme storms now, and that'll probably get worse. But it's much easier to work in this environment. Try work in Dubai or try work in New York in this winter. It's impossible to do anything. Where here, we actually have, and we sea swim now, we could a little bit more sunshine, it'd be nicer. Yeah. But I love our climate.
I was watching you sea swim the other day, actually, in your dry robe. And,
did you see that? First time I've ever used it. Dry robe.
Yes,
dry robe anchor.
I was laughing.
I was on my own. I didn't want anyone to see me. And it was even, do you know what? It was so Irish. That's back to apologising for being yourself. There was people in the change room, and I was like, it's my first time with the dry robe. They were like, well, they make sense. I was like, oh, you don't disapprove. I was looking for their approval of my fucking dry robe. Yeah.
But I remember when I moved here, I ran the David Lloyd Riverview Club in Clonskea. And I remember arriving and them not being happy that an English company had taken them over, but however, they did vote for it. I just arrived, had no clue about the country. I thought it'd be like moving home to Wales. It wasn't. It was like moving to Barcelona. No one spoke my language. Everybody was looking at me weird. And I remember I put on a Welsh accent. I talked like that for 6 months because they could deal with my Welsh accent, but they didn't enjoy my English accent.
Wow.
Which I picked up, when I was young. And so I did. I put on a Welsh accent for 6 months. But all those people that were kind of mean to me 6 months later that loved me then, and I used to remind them.
But they were mean?
Yeah. So, because I knew the country was changing.
You see, I always say, so I've lived in London for 20 years, right?
Yeah.
And I always say to English people, okay, we grow up looking at your culture. You know nothing about our culture because we're not on your telly every day. We know everything about American culture and everything about English culture. And I say, look, take it like this. You know the way you feel about the French? They go, oh, yeah. I said, well, we feel like that about you, but not as bad. We don't hate you the way you hate the French, but we're a bit wary of you. Yeah. And it's just because we know your culture. We're a little jealous of your culture. You're always a song 6 months ahead in the charts. It's all like, and I lived in London. London is a world capital. It is just further ahead in terms of trend, in terms of taste, in terms of diversity. It just is that little further ahead because it moves faster. And we're just a little small place that doesn't move that fast. I mean, we're kind of getting to grips and we have our own really unique art scene and our own language, but we are definitely slower.
We have space as well, though. And I think we underestimate the space we have.
Oh, I think you're right. I think the one thing about living in London that really did my head in was no space.
Yeah.
But I never left West London. All my friends went east. And if you know London, West London actually has lots of space. Lots of green space in West London, which I started to really appreciate because there was none in East. Everything's cramped in.
It's tight,
they're medieval streets. It's mental.
Yeah.
But so my growing up involved a lot of the UK. Like when I go to London now, I mean, I'm still a member of Soho House.
Are you?
I'm not giving that up for anybody.
Are you not?
No.
In your 50s?
No,
I told you have to leave in your 40s.
No. I'm a founding member of Shoreditch House.
Are you?
I am. I used to approve the applications.
Oh my God.
Because I was very good friends with one of the founders, and they used to call me Mr. Fashion. Face of British fashion. I say, I'm here, the face of British fashion, just in an ironic way, because I was doing the clothes show at the time, and I did a lot of fashion shows for them in Soho. It was exclusive fashion shows, so I'd take the sort of cream of Fashion Week and just show them privately to members. I was really sexy. Now it was a lot of hard work, and I was pulling a lot of favors, but I kept my membership because when I travel alone, oh my God, your membership is so. Anyway, that's my little bit of thing. My little bit of London. I'm never going to give up. I sold my house there, sold my flat.
Yeah,
sold my flat there and bought a house in Wicklow, which people who follow me on Instagram will have seen. I invested in this little house in Wicklow, and it's at the stage of life I'm at. I love it. My shoulders relax when I go there. I can see the sea from my house. Like, it's unbelievable. It's tiny, but it's mine, and I renovated, and I'm so proud of it. So London gave me that. Every time I'm standing in that house I renovated, I was like, this is from my time in London. So I'm very, very grateful. My time. No. You know what I mean?
I think you're right as well. I mean, I'm just about to move into they say the countryside. It's only 10 minutes from the city, but the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
And actually, I was watching you redevelop that house because ours is a very small one as well, but I can just see it coming together. It was beautiful.
Yeah, I'm really happy with it,
Yeah, no, it's delightful. But I think your time in London, like for me, it makes me very grateful to be here. I love living here.
I would skip off. It's funny you say that because we're really getting on. We're really making each other inspired by this conversation because I would skip off the plane in Heathrow. I would think to myself, I'm home. This is where I need to be. Because when in my early 30s, it just felt full of opportunity. It oozed opportunity. I had a great agent. I was a curious new thing. And I had one TV show in Ireland. And then I did Wanderlust for like 4 years, I think. And then I did it for Sky Living now it is. But then, so that was a little tip in. Then I got booked and I did Saturday Night Takeaway with Anton Deck, the first 2 seasons. Like I was the extra reporter. And then I did a blind date with Cilla Black.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean,
legend.
Saturday nights. They would fly me over and I would do it on Saturday night. So I guess it's a great start to my career. And also, when you've one show in Ireland, that's brilliant, but that's all you'll get, unless they're oversaturating you or some schedule thing happens the next while you're on 2 shows, which is rare. But you get 1 show a year, whereas which is fine, and then maybe that'll end. And when that ends, you've got to fish around and hustle That's my new book again. Another book is like the fucking hustle. I'm just like, I'm constantly so sick of the fucking hustle. Anyway.
No one sees the hustle.
Oh, I'm non-stop hustle.
Yeah.
And I'm back in hustle mode again. Anyway, I'll tell you all about that off. Like, I'm sick of the hustle, spinning plates. But I would go over there, and when you hustle there was 600 channels to hustle to.
Yeah.
There's 600 channels to hustle to. Not to mention the social media outlets now and blah, blah, blah. But at the time, there was like, you name it, there was a channel for it. And they were all owned by Sky, BBC, Living, and you had access to them and you could go in and pitch all day long. So the opportunity was coming out of the walls. But then something kind of, I don't know, I can't tell you what happened. Oh, so I bought my little flat. I was single. I'd broken up with somebody after a long time, 6 years. And I was in this little flat in West London. And my friends had all gone east. So Monday to Friday, we had an office in Queen's Park. And I could walk to the office from where I lived in White City. It was like a 25-minute walk. It was a grand walk. And I'd do it in the summer or cycle. But when I go home in the evening, because it's so hard to get anywhere in London, I felt really lonely for about a year. I was sort of locked in this. I could have gone out, but then to get back was a nightmare. And if I went east, if I missed the last tube, it was 60 quid home and it was just a waste.
Yeah.
So I'd say better stay. So I spent a lot of time learning to sort of stay in, and I would work out a lot and I'd cook. But I remember that time going, oh, this is weird. My nephews are growing. I'm not seeing them because my sister had moved home, and I started to come back more here. And then I got a contract with RTE. And the gods are telling me to go back there. And so all of a sudden, Ireland became much more attractive to me than London. And now when I go to London, I can only do 2 or 3 days in it now.
Yeah, I'm 2 days.
Yeah, I'm like, fuck, I'm done here now.
Yeah.
It's too busy.
Yeah.
You can't go anywhere unscheduled. Everybody's so used to the schedule. As Irish people, it's our instinct to just meet on the street and go for a coffee or go, we love an unscheduled random meet because it makes you feel like there's opportunity flowing around you. Whereas in London, it just got more scheduled and more scheduled and more scheduled. And I didn't like the scheduled nature of it. My friends will tell you that. I will do what you ask me to do, like this podcast, but I have to do it in my own frame and my own time head because my life is quite unscheduled. And if somebody rings me with an opportunity, because I'm freelance, I have to pursue that. So it's a bit like London got just a bit big.
I'd be straight down that street though. Like I never book anything in advance on a Friday. I never do. It's just my rule because by Wednesday, by Wednesday, either I need to fit something in somewhere or I just want a day off.
Well, do you know what? That's every time I get to Friday and if I have something in the diary, I'm like, oh God, I'm tired. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And every time, like I always, as I get older, kind of listen to your body is much more important because when you go out and you're tired, you can be a bit grumpy.
Yeah. And then it's just a bit of an arsehole. And you're like,
but all like everything was so exciting and fast and brilliant about it. And again, as you experience it, you've experienced it now.
Yes.
And you're done with it.
Yeah.
And so actually, when I wrote Wanderlust, when I was 24 or 23, I wanted to travel. I wanted to get drunk and I wanted to have sex. And that's what the show was, an internet blind date travel show. Yeah. That's what things that were important to me then.
Lead by example.
Well, and they're not that important to me anymore now. So I suppose, and also I'm a weary traveller now. I've travelled so much. I will not travel long haul economy. Just won't. I'd rather stay at home than not, than be down the back and not be comfortable. Because that's my thing. That's my hobby is flying business class. Like it's not even, I save up for it and I work hard for it and I get my points together. But like, I go somewhere now and I'll go because I want to go on a hike or I want to do a little bit I'm not really interested in going to see places anymore. Yeah. I've seen a lot of places and that I find that tiring.
Yeah, no, and I'm just back from Boston actually, and I for the first time I was like, oh my God, the jet lag is real. I'm older now. Jet lag is real. And also it was just a city.
Yeah.
And I was like, why did we come all the way here to see a city?
They're all the same.
Well, actually, it's quite, God, no one from Boston watching, but it's blocks of blocks on blocks. Whereas I could have gone to Barcelona and I could have seen beautiful architecture.
And it sounds ungrateful, but I actually have done about 6 different travel series.
Yeah.
And for work, I've traveled so much that actually it has to be a really good reason for me to get on an airplane. Like I don't skip to the airport anymore. Yeah. I don't look forward to it. Okay. So imagine I commute weekly from London for years.
Yeah, no,
that way and then this way. And you just get a pain in your ass with it. Because when you're younger, everything is exciting. You just get weary. Yeah. And I hate that to say that because it kind of sounds a little bit entitled or something. But you've seen it, you've done it. it's not going to yield any more
I forget,
excitement.
though, when I moved to David Lloyd for the first year, they paid me to go home every weekend.
Did they?
I was only ever supposed to be here for a year.
When you think about what people did.
And I used to think it was really fancy.
Yeah.
Because I'd have my, my weekend case.
Well, it was really fancy.
Yeah, and I'd be like, oh, look at me, like I've got a real job and I travel and everything. I remember I lived in Ariel House.
Where's that?
It's right next to Lansdowne Road.
Oh, wow.
And it's a little hotel. And they'd always let me leave all my stuff in the room over the weekend. So actually, by the time I left there, it looked like my
house.
1-bedroom apartment. I was like, I'm so sorry about this. But yeah, then I was like, this is actually rubbish. And I've got to decide where I want to live.
Yeah.
And I just fell in love with the place.
Brexit really changed the atmosphere in the UK. Huge. And I would remember sitting at dinner with Wayne, my ex, who's still one of my best friends, who's coming here for his birthday in a couple of weeks. And his family, I'm very close to his family.
Yeah.
And just as I was coming up to the vote and mentioning it, and they all looked at me and said, please stop, don't talk about this, because they were divided on it in a family. And I thought, oh, wow, that's wild. So that shifted an atmosphere, and that all of a sudden in for me, the most liberal city in the world, because I'm a gay who went to London, all of a sudden there was topics we couldn't discuss. I thought that was interesting,
Yeah, and like that, family split.
So, yeah, it was sad.
But I remember my mum was going to vote for it until me and my sister, who also lives here, we rang her the day before and we gave her our explanation of why she shouldn't do it, and she didn't do it.
Okay, yeah.
And then one of my sisters did, because she was completely, she loved her boss, and her boss was someone that drove it.
Yeah.
And then when COVID hit, her boss told everybody to go and work for Tesco's. And she realised he didn't give a shit about them.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Brexit is just such a weird thing.
Yeah.
I still think, I don't know how it will last.
Well, it's just down to unregulated social media.
Yeah.
People bought ads, Cambridge Analytics. It's true. They pushed false narratives to people and scared them.
Yeah. I was with some mates from London the other week, and they said, do you think though, Sean, one day we'll ask to come back? And I said, I actually can't wait. But then it's up to us whether we let you back. And I was like, what a mad thing to even think about at this present time. But it's made me think, what do I want to be?
Yeah.
And I certainly will become Irish this year. I'm going to fill out that 100-page form. Just because I actually even hate getting this different queue to my husband when we go travelling.
Yeah.
And they always make us wait. And I would too. Do you know what I mean? So I'm like, all the English people, I'm in the queue with everybody from Cardiff.
You should see it when you go to France, what they do to the English people. It's
Oh no, but I
outside in the rain.
Like my husband's Irish.
Yeah.
I came from Cork. But yeah, it's a really strange time.
Yeah.
And it has made it such a separate entity, even in my eyes, and all my, majority of my family live in Wales.
Yeah.
So I'm back there a lot.
Yeah.
But it's different.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Well, the world's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't it just?
But
so when for you, so you decided to come back, and when did it take you time to settle back in, or did it just feel right?
I want to say thank you so much to Ella and Joe, our sponsors of this episode of Be Bell Podcast. Ella and Joe is all about bringing a joy and vibrancy to skincare. Each product is inspired by nature and boosted by science, designed to deliver the most amazing results, but also to be kind to your skin. It is luxury moments that brighten up our day. And as always, I want to bring it back to me with my two hero products. The 3-in-1 Hyaluronic Spritz, it stays in my bag all the time. And if you haven't tried Melt Away, then it's a must. It's the most beautiful cleanser. And don't forget, all BeBell listeners can get 20% off all full-size products online. Just use the code BeBell at checkout. So thank you, Ella and Joe, for sponsoring this series of BeBell Podcast.
I've always had a foot in each pond, because I've always kind of had a life there and a life here. And I had two lives at one point, because they were two different sets of friends. Now, there was a bit of cross-pollination. So Wayne is a very big club promoter, my ex. And so a lot of my friends would come and hang out in his clubs and pubs and stuff like that. And then he'd come to Ireland. So there was a bit of cross. And in fact, I met him through Rory, actually. And Rory's older brother, Lorcan, who lives in London. So there's a bit of cross-pollination at sort of the nearer levels to me. But then there's the wider network of friends. I had an absolute massively wide network of friends in London and a really wet network of friends in Ireland. And they were both on the go all the time, because I was coming back and forth. So I think the longest time I didn't come home, I moved to Liverpool, don't ask, for love, in my early 20s. And the longest period I hadn't come back to Ireland was 8 months, 9 months, I think.
Wow.
And I always remember coming and thinking everything looked so green.
Yeah.
What is it so green? Because I hadn't been here in 9 months. And that was in my early 20s. I just got caught up in my own life there. But then after that, I would I literally had, so I never didn't settle in either place because I always had kind of a home in both places.
Yeah.
So I had my little flat in London and then I bought my flat here and I had the two on the go then for a while. I was Airbnb-ing one when I wasn't in the other. And that kind of worked pre-COVID for a little while. But in 2009, when I signed the contract with RTE, I wrote the first book with Sonia on my phone from the flat in London.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was coming back to film. Then I go back there because I was still running my production company in London. And then one day I just said, right, I'm going to go hell for leather in this. I'm going to, because I had just studied, I'd just done 3 years in the evening in Central St. Martin's. I'd done fashion, pattern cutting and illustration. And so I said, right, because I was interviewing people in the clothes show going, I'm talking shite. I need to know what I'm talking about. I want to know about, my mum was a garment maker. She was a seamstress as well as a hairdresser. So I kind of had a little bit of understanding about it and patterns particularly. And so I went back and studied it. So in my head, so when I'm interviewing Stella McCartney, I know exactly what I'm talking about in terms of the construct and inspiration. So I did that. And then when I got off the rails, I thought, okay, well, let's go for it. Let's do the whole thing together. Because then we did Off the Rails live just before the crash, which was huge. We flew in, of course, which was really naive, but we flew in the clothes show live troupe of dancers and the choreographers and the models and everything. And it was in the RDS. But myself and Sonia sort of executive produced that. So I said, right, okay, I'm based in Ireland now because that's where my opportunity is. Now, the crash had happened. So ironically, my beautiful apartment on the Quays in Dublin, which I love, which is 1,000 square feet. It's big. 2 bathrooms. It's only 2 bedrooms, but it's a big old space. It's on the top floor with a roof deck overlooking the city. Cost me €175,000.
Wow.
Yeah. Because it was a crash. And actually somebody in my building the year before had bought one for 130,000.
That's meant, actually, so I'm up the road and I bought mine for 335. They went down to 175.
There you go.
They've just come back after 18 years.
Yeah, isn't that mad? So I was one of the lucky ones who was ready to go when I couldn't have afforded the current prices on my own, but I could afford 175. So I was very lucky. So I bought that.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So
I actually went to that show.
Yeah, did you? Clash Live? Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, it was.
Really good. And then the crash happened.
Yeah.
Literally that month, I think.
Oh, it was crazy. I just started my first business, actually. And I was still at David Lloyd. I bought their spa off them. And I never forget, 2009, I walked into the car park. Every January the 1st, we'd go out to see with cars because it'd all be the new cars. And there was no new cars in the car park. And I was 6 months in business and just went, oh my God, this is really bad.
It was really bad.
And it was.
Yeah.
But we survive.
Oh, listen, we do survive. And we were doing our TV show and we recorded, I think, 12 episodes a season, but it was quite involved. It was quite a long period of time actually to do each episode. So we were busy and and we'd written the book and we were launching the book and then we just
How did you two meet though?
We were cast on Off the Rails.
Literally, that's how you met?
So we knew each other because Dublin's small and we're similar age. And one of her best friends, Jane Shortall, is a dance choreographer and I used to teach step and dance with her. Okay. And we went to New York together to a dance symposium, would you believe, in 2004 or 5 actually, or 2003. And so I knew that Sonia was friends with her. And then Alana Gallagher, one of Sonia's best friends, worked with Rory in Elephant and Castle, my friend Rory Panty.
Yes.
And so Rory knew those girls. Sonia's got a group of friends, Kyla, Sonia, Jane, Katrina and Alana, the Lala as we call them. And so Rory knew that group. And then I remember kind of bumping into them at parties a couple of times. So we knew of each other. Yes. But I lived in London, you see, remember? So I'd missed sort of the party years, the later party years in Dublin of the early noughties. And then RT rang me and said, we're recasting Off the Rails. Do you want to go for it? And I was like, okay. But Queer Eye was huge. And I was like, absolutely, I'm not doing a Queer Eye. Yeah. I do not agree with that sentiment. I'm not Queer Eyes. Guys are better than straight guys because it's not true in terms of aesthetic. And I just didn't like I have never watched the one on Netflix, so I can't comment on it. But at the time I was like, I'm not doing that. Yeah. And also I was doing, because it was a three-hander on the clothes show, and bringing back the clothes show was my idea. I optioned it, but you didn't even have to option rights because it wasn't even copywritten. And Jeff Banks still hates me because he didn't get cast in it, but I did. Me, Louise Redknapp and Karen Franklin. And we brought it back, but it was a three-hander with an exec who we brought in. And I was kind of the exec, but she kind of wrestled it out of my hand. So I'd been through a process of, it was tricky. So when I got Off the Rails, I said, yeah, I'll do it, but I'm doing it my way. because if I fuck it up, I'll know I fucked it up. The last 2 gigs I'd done, I'd given them 2 producers who had wrestled it out of my hand. Like the Lennon Courtney show, my chat show on TV3, I commuted every week back from Ireland to do it, back from the UK to do it. And the producer was an English producer who wrestled it out of my hand, who'd come from the UK, taught she knew nothing about Irish culture. But also I was out of touch with Irish culture. I was 5 or 6 years in London at that stage, maybe more. So I was flying back every week we were talking about people on Eurostar, and I didn't know any of the people. I wasn't watching Irish television. It was naive. But so that gig had been wrestled out of my hand by a producer, even though it was my idea. Close show had been wrestled out of my hand by a producer, my idea. And so they'd been difficult times. They'd been really challenging because you're wrestling with somebody, you're wrestling for power with somebody or with control, and it's your gig. It's weird. So when that came along, I said, I'll do it, but I've just had 2 bad experiences, so I'm execing it. Of course, no, I don't think you're good. No, I don't think you are. I said, well, here's my list of demands. I want to cast it. I have final approval on all casting because I just done 150 episodes of Close Show. I knew how to cast it. I also knew not to do what not to wear, to do gawk. Cast for positivity. Don't cast to tell people they're wrong. Listen to people. Everything Gawk did was brilliant. Listen to people. Like he knows it. I've told him we totally copied his mantra, which was there's no right or wrong. There's no rules. And I will listen to you. You're having a bad hair day, and I'm going to make you feel good about yourself. That's all. And I said, that's what I'm doing. And they were like, we want a little bit of, they kept saying they wanted Jeopardy and a little bit of, argy-bargy to give it a little bit of spice. Yeah. And I was like, no, I will not work with somebody who doesn't want to work with me. So, okay. And we were right. It was a huge hit. Yeah. But then they rang and said, how do you feel about a 2-hander? And I was like, oh, I hadn't even thought of that. And I love a 2-hander. So I had just done Playdate with Kate, the one who won Big Brother, Kate Lawler, who I love.
Yeah, she's fab.
Yeah, and we're still great mates. And Zoe Hardman, who's just been over, myself and herself did a dating show. And myself and Sarah Kaywood did Blind Date Kiss and Tell. I love a 2-hander because then when you're hanging around, you've got a buddy and you have each other's backs. And you're not just the diva in front of the camera. There's 2 of you, so you can sense check yourself.
Off each other.
You can sense check. Are you being demanding? Because I was only learning my craft, and they said Sonia Lennon, and I was like, ooh. And I know she was doing movies at the time, so she'd gone past fashion, and she was now doing movies, and she'd done one of my favorite movies, Adam and Paul, which was brilliant. And I was like, wow, would she do it? And they were like, yeah, she's kind of keen. So I said, okay. So that's how we met. I texted her, hi, Rumi.
And so you got the contract and you wrote, was the part of the contract to write?
No, it has nothing to do with them. The book came the next season, sorry.
Okay.
The next year, yeah. Yeah, so that'll tell you, I did the first season by commuting, and then the second season, because we wrote the book the second season, we thought, because Gawk had 9 books, and Angela, her name is Angela Butolf, she's still a mate. She's a writer, very good fashion journalist, and she was not like ghostwriting Gawk's book, so he was narrating them, and then she was... I was like, that's brilliant. And when I went to the publisher here, they were like, if people find out you have a ghostwriter in Ireland, they will slate you.
Kill you.
So I was like, oh, fuck. So we had to write the books.
Oh.
Yeah. So we did. I mean, Sonia she's a writer. She loves it. Yeah. So we wrote we wrote 2 books. I
sometimes send stuff to my VA and say, look, I've written all that, but just make it look pretty.
Yeah. What's a VA?
Virtual assistant.
Do you love her?
I can't live without her, and she's gone travelling. I hate her for that. But she'll be back from South America, hopefully by the end of the year. But yeah, no, so I can't live without her.
We had to do it ourselves, yeah.
That's amazing.
So then we came back and properly, then I really resisted being here and would go back to London a lot. I don't know, I felt like, and I wouldn't, like, simple things, like I wouldn't give up my gym membership, and I kept my Addison Lee account and all the little things I need when I lived there. And then I kind of, the only thing, like last year, I said, as my invoice arrived for my Soho House membership, I said, no, I'm keeping it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good though.
Yeah. Well, I use it all around the world.
Yes.
And I let it actually dictate where I travel. Yeah. For a weekend break. Because if it's a Soho House there, it's a different experience if you're a member.
Yeah.
It sounds like you really are cushioned. There's always a swimming pool. You're right in the heart of the city. Yeah. It could be Istanbul, Mexico City. You know, it's really magical to be part of it.
Yeah. No, I've only ever been to the one but actually when I first went to Shoreditch, as the taxi driver was taking me, I was like, where are we going? And he was going, Shoreditch. And I was like, this is Hackney. And he was like, this is Shoreditch. And I went, this is Hackney, mate. And this is scary. Because I would never have gone to Hackney when I was a teenager because you'd get really hurt. And he was like, oh, no. I was like, okay, so this is the new place to be.
Yeah.
As is Tooting, as in, do you know what I mean?
It's wild.
Yeah, no, it's great. So you come back, you're settled, the show, what's next for you?
After the show or now?
No, after the show.
So the show ran for 7 seasons
Mm-hmm.
and we did live events. And then we started to really foothold as... So every time I put someone in Spanx or in a dress, Debenhams would send me flowers.
Yeah.
Because they would sell out. So we were the original influencers. And we saw the power of that very quickly. And so that's when Lennon Courtney started to be hatched. That's when our brand was starting to be hatched. And it started off life as kind of really attractive underwear for brides.
Okay.
And then a way to take the ugly out of support stuff. Now, thrusting someone up in corset and support stuff is completely passé. And I would never even think about doing it now. But at the time, very disappointingly, I always say this, every single woman I ever worked with just wanted to look younger and thinner.
Okay.
And a man never wanted that from me when I worked with men. And I just always thought, this is so sexist. So I became, I suppose, disillusioned by what women were expecting from us, particularly women of a certain age. They would say things like, they don't remember the week, the month, even the day. They remember the moment men stopped seeing them as sexual objects. And a lot of women would say that to me over the years. And I would say, why is that so important to you? Why do you care about that? Yeah. And it was because the menopause was a dirty word. It was called the change. Women took to their beds. We were part of seeing a big change in attitudes towards age and aging. And unfortunately, we were a program that saw that we tried to be positive about it, but the attitude of society was aging for women was a bad thing.
It's weird, isn't it?
Oh, it was fucking awful.
But actually, when you say when's that time where men stop seeing you as well, it's actually when you stop seeing yourself.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. It's all internalised because nobody gives a shit about you.
No.
Your mother just about cares. You know, people are really in their own heads.
Yes.
That's one thing you learn. I mean, I've had this because I came out at 19. I came out to myself at 17. I have had this mantra that nobody cares.
Yeah. And they really don't.
They really don't care. You're gossip for a minute and then they move on to their own thoughts. They're thinking about themselves. People are really in their own reality.
Yeah.
And so the power of realising that is very freeing. That nobody's really thinking about you. You know, your mother say, nobody be looking at you is kind of true. You know,
yes.
which is an insult in some ways. But when the show was happening, so the label started to happen, and the label I saw as an opportunity to do something with women's clothes that was liberating, freeing, positive, you know, good fits, nice silhouettes, but also easy to wear, comfortable. Like when we started the label, a contemporary of ours who shall remain nameless would say comfort is a dirty word in fashion. And I remember saying, no, it's not. You couldn't be more wrong. You've dressed one body. I've dressed thousands of women.
Yeah.
Comfort is really important to them. They'll trust up for a half an hour for a photograph and then they have their runners in their bag.
Yeah.
Comfort's really important to us. So that was a big liberating thing for me. And also listening to the women we worked with on Off the Rails, that was an encyclopedia of knowledge of how people felt about their bodies and how people were so...
It's the best market research you could have ever had.
Ever had.
Yeah.
Because it was real people telling us. And often there was only one woman who really wrestled with us. And then it transpired she'd had a horrible life. And she opened up to me one day and she was just a ball of anger. But I still got through to her. Like I used to say, yet to be bet. I've never been beaten because I used to say, I'm not a psychotherapist or a clinical psychologist. I am not here to fix you. I know you've come to me. I didn't go to you. You've walked into the room looking for my help just to make you feel a little bit better about yourself. That's all I'm going to do. And then they'd totally relax. And I'd make every single one of them feel amazing.
Yeah.
And I loved it.
It makes it so less complicated.
Oh yeah. We're just going to give you a good hair day.
Yeah.
You're just going to feel good about yourself at the end of this.
Yeah.
And every single one I worked with, I did. Because actually, I did watch very closely what the others had done before us and knew that the key to what we do or did was listen. If she doesn't like black, don't put her in fucking black. Don't tell her you're wrong. If she doesn't like bright colours, don't. But what I would say, the one thing I did learn and the one mantra that I've always taken out of it is, even with my experience, I could put something on you that's hanging on a hanger and I'll be surprised how it looks on you.
Okay.
Never mind you. We're like, oh my God, that really works.
Yeah.
Because the cut on things and the movement and things are just different. You don't know till you try it on. You know that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But it took me not as long as other people, because I worked as a fitting model. I got to know my shape very quickly because my shape changed every day over 28 days. It was mad. Like it literally would do this because I'd be measured twice a week. And I used to often look at friends that didn't hold weight like I hold weight. And I'd think, why are they so uncomfortable in what they're wearing?
Yeah.
And for me, confidence was feeling comfortable.
Yeah.
Feeling at ease.
Yeah.
I bought all those things. I bought Spanx.
Yeah.
They never got past my front door.
Yeah.
I'd get dressed, put the dress on, have them underneath, then the taxi would arrive and I'd go, hang on 1 second.
Take them off.
Quickly whip them off, chuck them up the stairs and go, oh, couldn't have spent all day in that.
Yeah, no.
And it only goes somewhere else.
Yeah.
I remember minimiser bras. I used to walk around like that because my boobs would be underneath my armpits. I'd be like, this is crazy. But did you know where it would go, like when you started?
So I suppose I had a sort of a top line plan, but was more of a plan than an ambition in that I had gotten into television. I really wanted to be. I was in Dublin Youth Theatre from 14 to 19, and I went for it was the second year of drama studies in Trinity. It just started the course, and I went for that, and I was 16, and I remember being there and going, I've been acting somebody else all my life. I don't want to act somebody else. I want to be myself, and so I can be a presenter. And then I started writing TV ideas, and I thought, that's my work. It's very creative. Like I literally started on the back of an envelope, and I make something out of nothing. That's how my career has been, and that I really slap myself on the back for that now. Like every single thing I've done has been created from an idea in my brain to a piece of paper to a reality, be it a TV show or a frock or whatever we do. And so I kind of knew I didn't want to pretend to be someone else. So I got into presenting, wrote Wanderlust. That was a really amazing start to my career because it sold so well around the world. And then it turned out I was quite good at presenting, but I was funny in camp. And so I was being pushed to be a comedian. And my UK agent was paying for me to do Edinburgh. And she said, go and write a show, just write 20 minutes. And I was like, oh, eh. And then I just went, no. I spent a week with Ricky Gervais in America. And I thought, no, that's not who I am.
Yeah.
I'm not that person. I'm funny, but I don't want living for laughter.
Without pressure.
Yeah, living for laughter is not.
Yeah.
No, I don't. And I also, at the time, Ricky was really nice, actually, and interesting. But other than him, other comedians I'd met had been very dark people and really insecure. And I just thought, oh God, no, I can understand why it's very difficult if your life work depends on making people laugh and it doesn't always go to plan. But also I was like, it's not instinctive. I haven't come up that way.
Yes.
I went presenting because I want to be myself. So, and I was funny in camp. So I was being really pushed to be a comedian. And then I got a chat show and I was being pushed to be funnier and funnier and funnier. And I am funny when you let me, but it's not who I wanted to be. And also I recognize that one year you're hot, the next year you're not. And especially when you're a young presenter, everybody wants you, then nobody wants you, then everybody wants you, and you do something and it doesn't work. And so I wanted to create a world that I could earn a living that didn't involve my face.
Okay.
And that was Lennon Courtney. I wanted a product that could be sold online while I was sleeping. I believe it's called passive income.
Yeah.
And so Lennon Courtney was that. I thought fashion. Also, I wanted a specialized subject that wasn't comedy. So my mother's a seamstress. I've always loved fashion. For me, I was like, that's my football. Why don't I make a career out of talking about that? And I love Fashion Week and I love the theatre of it and the nonsense of it and the ridiculousness of it. I also am fascinated by psychology of trend, what moves people in numbers to buy one thing, the Super Cup, what's all that about? Love all that stuff. So I love the deeper psychology of retail as well. I really like that. So all that made sense. And then out of that to build a product that wasn't just about me, that could live past me or live beyond me, but I can earn a living from. So that was very strategic, but didn't know where the opportunity was going to come from.
Okay.
But just thought, if I talk about a subject and become a specialist contributor, I'll always work. And it won't rely on just me being Brendan Courtney turning up. It'll be Brendan Courtney. Oh, he's a fashion guy, which I did very successfully then. But then I've had to really work hard to shake that off. Because with the fashion guy comes a kind of a dum-dum label. It's an assumption that you're not very bright. There's an assumption that, and it's changed, it's relaxed because we now appreciate it. But when I was on Off the Rails, I was the fashion guy and it was a stupid gay fashion guy. I have had so many people, I can't even tell you, say to me at dinner parties or events, my God, you have a brain.
Kidding?
Oh yeah, loads of times. Because they thought frivolous, nonsense, fashion. They didn't think, comes from a very working class background, clawed his way in there, wrote his own format, created his own future. And I'm looking at these people who've been funded through university, who have nepotistic relationships with all the industries they work in. And I'm like, I've worked much fucking harder than you to do what I did. And you assume that I don't have a brain.
It's mad. You only know what you know, don't you?
Yeah, but I also don't care. But I think,
no.
And that's the other gift. I don't care.
I love that.
I don't give a shit what they think.
Yeah.
But I know what I've had to do to keep hustling and keep working.
Yes.
So, I thought fashion was something primarily, I knew it was frivolous. I knew it was a really gay thing to pursue, but I also knew it was a subject I was really interested in, and therefore I wouldn't bore of it.
Yeah.
I have the attention span of a goldfish. I get bored really quick. I've given up every gig I've ever had. I've gone, I'm bored now.
Move on.
Yeah, I've moved on. Now, is that true? Off the rails? No, it's not true. It was ended for us. It was terminated, and because it had done 18 years.
That's mad, isn't
Sorry,
it?
it had done 26 years or something. We'd had it for a number of years. We'd had it for, I think, eight seasons, because we did spring as well. But it come to its natural end. And actually, everything in terms of fashion had moved online.
Yes.
And Expose was live. They were trumping us all the time. They were getting the content live that day. Instagram was live, and we were pre-recorded. So as a kind of a vehicle that we really relied on the makeover as a journey, and that was getting a little bit
Yeah, it
passé.
was its time.
It was of its time, yeah.
Yeah, but that gave you the platform to do
Lennon Courtney. Yeah.
Lennon Courtney.
Yeah.
And so when you decide to go down that path, is it because somebody has approached you, or have you gone out hustled and find...
So we had it in our head to figure out how... We were thinking, will we start with knitwear then, or will we start with something really easy, because there's manufacturers of knitwear in Ireland, or will we start with sort of, a really attractive underwear for brides, or something small and simple. Like they always say, do one thing and do it really well. Yeah. But with fashion, of course, it's 42 things, and it's 3 times a year.
Yeah.
So you're reinventing the wheel for the same person who's bought that wheel, who wants something different, but not that different. Like, it's hard. Women's fashion's tricky. It's very consuming, time, energy, creativity. I love it. And we learned the hard way. We were somewhere at a party, and we met this guy, Terry, who's part of a manufacturing dynasty in Hong Kong. And he was like, my family make All Saints, we make blah, blah. You guys he's married to an Irish woman.
Okay.
Knew us off the TV and said, come and talk to me. So he helped us start the business. So he manufactured and took a third of the contract. And then we had the other 2/3, but we didn't, that meant costs as well.
Yeah.
So for the first 4 years, we didn't pay ourselves a penny.
Yeah.
We just grew the business, and it was hard. It was a PhD in fashion, because we did everything. Design, marketing, fabric selection, everything except for stitch the garments.
Wow.
Yeah, everything.
And so that made you want to partner up with someone then, or?
No, yeah. Oh, so with Dunn's?
Yeah.
So basically, we had our own little shop. We were in about 40 boutiques across the UK and Ireland.
Yeah.
We were in Harvey Nichols as a concession. Concession's paying the ass, because if it doesn't sell, they send it back. And we were chugging along, and we got to 4.5 years, 5 years nearly, and we thought we should partner with someone now. We should find a retailer. And Dunn's sort of, I don't know how we met them. We met them at some, like all things on Sonia Eyes. We met one of the, call them the shareholders, at a thing, and we're talking to them, and they were like, we love what you do. Come and talk to us. And that was that. We were in there 6 weeks later.
That's crazy.
Where
6 weeks.
Where we stayed for 7 years.
Yeah.
And then we left. We left in COVID changed everything for retail.
Yes.
It really did. Our last launch with Dunn's was incredible. It was our biggest launch ever. And it was on the 11th of March. And on the 13th, Leo closed us down, and every single garment came back. Everything returned.
Oh,
So Dunn's were amazing. They really stayed strong with us. But fashion fell off a cliff. Fashion was one of the industries that just got nuked. Like, bars and restaurants got nuked. And food, of course, exploded, and home exploded.
Yeah.
And so when home exploded, I was like, home's not going anywhere ever. So I really wanted to do home. And so we thought, shall we just go and carve stools in the woods and sell one at a time? Let's just slow it down. Let's just pull back. We both turned 50. And off we went into the woods ourselves, and just reassessed and started to think about doing knitwear in Ireland again, where we'd started in the vision of just doing really good quality, easy knitwear, because, it became less about making millions and going global, and more about, are we happy with what we're doing?
Yeah.
And we were very happy, and we love Dunn's, and we have a great relationship still with all the people we worked with there. But it was time for us to gear shift, and we started thinking about home. And then out of nowhere, Kilkenny Group, we met them at a party and said, how are you guys doing? And we said, well, we're on our own now, we're back out.
Yeah.
They were like, oh. And so home is my vision now for the future.
Okay.
I love it. I love interiors.
Yeah, and I love your home interiors that you do with Kilkenny and everything from home fragrance to.
If I knew then what I know now, I would have started with home.
Would you?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because I tell you why, I'm lucky that my career continued after Off the Rails, and I then went on to do a series called Crowded House.
Yeah.
Did 3 series of that, and then I wrote My 4 Marquees to Your Life, which is now on season 6. And so that RT1 audience, when I meet them, they may not want to buy our fashion, but they'd be really into the print on a cushion, and I could feel that because I would be. You know, I'd love that print on a cushion because I can't wear our clothes either.
Yes.
So I remember thinking, there's a wider audience for home. There just naturally is.
No, there, of course, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so where do you see it? So will you grow that piece?
Massively. So we can't keep it on the shelves. It's been massive.
Yeah.
So we did candles, which took us 1.5 years to develop. They're the nicest candles I've ever smelled. They're gorgeous and they're really good value. That was another thing coming out of COVID. It was value. So the candles are €18, which they should be probably a little more expensive than that, but no, we keep to the value, and they've been a huge success. And so, yeah, who knows where it'll go? I mean, it's a lot of ceramics coming down the line, glassware.
And a great company to be working with.
They're just so lovely, yeah.
Such great supporters of Irish business.
And makers, yeah.
Yeah, no.
All about the makers, yeah.
Yeah.
And in fact, actually just last week, I pitched to about 30 American buyers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
which they organised, yeah. So we're working very closely now with Enterprise Ireland and for the growth into America, UK. So yeah, that but it's, you know, the one thing I've learned, I'm really impatient. That's my biggest, what's the word I'm looking for? It's my Achilles heel, and it's also the thing that gets me moving. My strength is impatience. And if you can just keep it at the good stuff, but I'm also really impatient with the bad stuff, which is, and so sometimes you have to be patient with things to let them grow properly. And I'm very patient with this now.
Yeah. I have a similar problem.
Yeah.
The other problem I have is caring about things that other people don't care about, which I really have to let go of. And I'm trying this year. So if someone says, I can't be bothered to do that. And I go, well, I'll have to do it then, you know.
Yeah.
But now I just go, okay, then don't do it.
Yeah.
And it's really hard because I want everything to be perfect.
Yeah.
And everything to be right. But I see so the design process you do together.
Yeah. Big time. That's the easy part.
Yeah.
That's super easy. That's like colouring in. That's just the fun part. We could do that all day, all night. We have to stop doing that because we over-design all the time.
Yeah.
So now we've actually said down tools because the next year is mapped out. Stop designing because we go, this is better. Oh, we're like kids with bright lights. Look at this. You know, so yeah, we do.
But it's amazing.
Yeah, no, I love it.
And it is, and it does make, like, you really, you know, the brand is so strong.
Well, the colours are very important,
Yeah.
And the accessories have done really well, the handbags and stuff like that. So and I like that because accessories are really inclusive. Anybody can carry a handbag, you know? And so
They always fit.
They always fit, you know.
I was a shoes and handbag girl all my life.
Yeah, everybody is, yeah. And everybody is.
Yeah.
Everybody is. Handbag never makes you feel bad about yourself.
No.
Never.
You can't beat them.
Yeah.
And so that's business, but what's next for you?
So I am in filming at the moment, Keys to My Life, which I love. I'm very proud of that. And we are, like, the hustle never stops, you know. I've written a comedy drama.
Oh.
I'm in the process of writing a book. And I've also written another big international format for one of the players. And which I can't say who it is, obviously, just yet. But I'm always writing ideas and thinking where they'll sit. And I'm really excited, actually. I've written an animation. So I decided about 4 years ago, I want an Oscar, I want an Emmy, and I want a Golden Globe. So the Golden Globe or the Emmy is the comedy drama. The Oscar is the animation.
Okay.
And the Emmy or the Golden Globe then is the international format, which is probably the Emmy. And that's just a thing to aim for.
Yeah.
But actually the animation, my brother and my 2 nephews are animators.
Oh, wow.
And so having a team of animators, that's the hardest part with animation. So I wrote an animation about 3 years ago called Cull, which is sort of Watership Down meets Bambi. Okay. So it's based on the cull in the park. I run in the park every day with my dog, and twice a year they cull the deer.
Yes.
So I wrote this animation, and the cull is actually really then when Palestine, the conflict there happened in Gaza, basically the British put the deer in the park to hunt them. And so it's it's an observation of the perils of colonialism. Wow. And it's 2 brothers, Stag, Cree and Cown, which means heart and head in Irish. and Cree obviously is the older one, the
Yeah.
heart. No, yeah, Keown is the kind of feisty young one, and he can remember the cull. He doesn't exactly know what happens. He's young, and he knows something bad is coming, and he's trying to warn them. And then Keown obviously is the feisty, strong-headed thing, and they fight and they clack horns, and there's a magpie trying to warn them and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, it's a short, and we're in the process of doing that, and I'm going to enter that in international film festivals and see what happens.
I can't wait to see that. I actually grew up next to Richmond Park, and was very used to the cull.
Yeah.
Actually, the head gamekeeper was Leo Daly from Limerick.
Way.
Yes.
That's gas,
used
isn't
to
it?
drink in my mum and dad's pub. And yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, so that was really to do a project with my family because they're animators and they're really talented, but also just to experiment with writing scripts in that way. And it's a nice script. And if I took it to a big animation company who actually have 2 Oscars, they were like, yeah, we love it. So they're going to take it in, produce for me.
Okay, tick that box, Brendan.
Well, what I gave myself was the ambition. You know, Baz has an Emmy.
Yeah.
You know, and I love Baz and love what he does. And I was like, I can get an Emmy. And it's not that I particularly want the accolade of the award, but it's to aim for something that's outside your comfort zone. So it's making me write this comedy, this drama comedy, which I love. It's called Mammy Issues. And the big international format's called We Are Immigrant, which is about, obviously it's a format. It's a thing people take part, like Keys to My Life on acid, basically on steroids.
Okay.
And then it was just to push to wider things. And actually with that, with Immigrant, it was really about seeing how you can fund an international project through kind of contacts I have, and if you can pull big projects together. So it's really an area of exploration. So it's just something new for me.
I'm excited to watch.
Yeah,
I'm very
mad.
excited to watch. Listen, we're going to finish with a question.
Oh,
so
go on, yeah.
person before always leaves a question. The person next.
Oh, very good.
So this is your question.
Who was before me? Can you
I'm
not
not
tell me?
telling you.
Okay.
I might tell
Did
you
they
after.
know? Did they know it was me?
No.
What are you doing, or what would you like to do to encourage or give people the confidence to chase their passion?
Oh, what doesn't he do?
So I'm a ladder down kind of person.
Okay.
And for somebody once said to me, pull the ladder up. I was like, what does that mean even? I really encourage my younger contemporaries to flourish, and they'll all tell you that. So any particularly young gay men in broadcasting or in fashion, I'm their mentor. I'm helping. I'll ring them with ideas and things. So I'm very encouraging of the new wave of talent, because I also think they'll remember.
Yeah.
And they will include you when your days out in the sunshine are over and you're moved into the sunset. I think that's really important to do. So I think it's self-serving, and you're really honest about that, going, I'll help you because you're going to help me. And when I've seen people not do that, it always burns them.
I agree.
I'm 30 years doing this. I've seen people not help people, and they're gone. So I would be actively encouraging people, if they want to do what I do, and I would always meet people for coffee to give them advice. But to chase your passion, you know, I'm really inspired by the rapper Doechii, who just won Rapper of the Year. It's the 3rd woman to ever win it, who addressed the camera and said, there is a little black girl somewhere watching this. And it's true. I think if you work hard...
If you can see it, you can be it.
If you can see it, you can be it. And if you work hard, chase your passion. Big time. I think the world is a very small place now because of the internet. Like, strange things can happen and you can achieve great things. I do think the weird thing that I do know now that you can't hide behind naivety is that it takes a shitload of work to achieve anything.
Yeah.
It takes twice as long and twice as much effort.
Jimmy Carl says people are jealous of what they see. They're never jealous of how you got there.
Yeah. And it's like, now I know as I'm leaning into creating new projects, I now know, it's going to be loads of work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Loads of rejection.
But you know what? It'd be so worth it, even if not for you, for us.
Well, I always say Elizabeth Murdoch, Rupert Murdoch's daughter, who I did Close Show with, her company Shine, said to me, how do you rate your success? How do you think about success? And I was like, oh God, that's a leading question. She said, how you measure your success is how you deal with rejection.
Okay.
And do you deal well with rejection? And I said, it depends on my mood. She said, never take it personally, shift it, move on. And I suppose when you're in our game, it's not personal. It's just not right.
Yes.
And if you take it personally, you'll just go and take to the couch and never get off.
Yeah.
You have to just not take it personally.
Yeah. It's hard for some people, but I completely agree.
Yeah.
But listen, thank you so much for
Pleasure.
spending time with me. I bloody loved that. And
Love
we have
you,
to do
yeah.
it again. Thank you so
anytime.
much.
Thank
It
you
was
so
great.
much. Thank you.
So thank you for listening to this week's Be-Bell podcast. Don't forget, you can find us on social media. If you've got any questions, then please don't hesitate to DM us at bbell_wellness. You can also find this on our YouTube channel, which is my YouTube channel, Sian Horn. And don't forget, the more people that subscribe, the better that we can make this pod. So don't forget, like and subscribe across all channels. And thank you.